Here to react, National Review Editor-in-Chief Rich Lowry. Rich, again, families are great, but to have families, you need babies.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting, Joe Biden has run a campaign on a threat to democracy. Donald Trump's a threat. Republicans are a threat. But this is democracy in action, giving the abortion issue back to the states and letting people debate it and vote on it.
Yeah, so clearly Trump, he's very cognizant of the politics of this issue. He's made it clear all along he doesn't think the politics are great, doesn't really want to have this debate, so he's just going to let the states decide. Now, they're still going to go after him, and wherever there's a restriction or something that goes wrong, they're going to blame him, as we see forecast by Kamala Harris. So it's not as though there's going to be no debate about this issue. There's still going to be a big debate, but Trump thinks this is the best defensive position to try to hold.
But what they're trying to do is say, there's going to be a national ban, and the media, the left-wing media, even the LA Times wrote a piece about this, just picking up that ball and continuing to run with it. The Republicans, on the flip side, Rich, they need to be aggressive. Kamala Harris went into an abortion clinic in Minnesota, and in Minnesota, you can have an abortion up until the moment of birth. There's some details on it, but the Republicans need to highlight that.
Yeah, and that was one of my favorite things about the Trump statement. He went right at the radicalism of Democrats on this. His best moment in any of the debates in 2016 against Hillary Clinton was exactly on this issue in the last debate. In some ways, I think that moment might have turned the election. But he needs to constantly hammer that. And Democrats are pushing a bill that would, at the federal level, wipe out every state-level protection for the unborn and basically federalize a so-called right to abortion through the entire 9 months of a pregnancy.
Exactly. Democrats are a threat to democracy, Rich. That's the point. All right, let's move on to this. Senator Mitt Romney, he's criticized both presidential contenders, Donald Trump for isolationist policies and Biden for his failures at the southern border. And now in an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, he's encouraging the moderate No Labels Party to pick a side in the hopes that it would bring one or both candidates to a position of being a centrist. Rich, I think Mitt Romney is doing a little rope-a-dope here. I think he thinks that No Labels will actually endorse Joe Biden.
Like No Labels going to endorse Trump?
No,
really?
That's really a political play by
and then the idea that this No Labels endorsement will move Joe Biden to the center when the entirety of the Democratic Party is moving to the left. And he's been catering to that opinion on the border, on Gaza, on student loans, on a whole host of other things. This is a fantasy.
And Mitt Romney is just, again, gasping for relevancy. When he leaves the Senate, what the heck's he going to do?
Spend his money.
We don't care, actually. The Justice Department, meantime, and you've written a lot about this, is blasting Republican GOP efforts to hold Attorney General Merrick Garland in contempt after his refusal to turn over the full audio of Special Counsel Robert Hur's interview with President Biden and his handling of classified documents. The DOJ arguing that House Republicans don't want the audio for, quote, legitimate oversight or investigatory functions, but to serve political purposes. Rich recently wrote about the double standards of this Justice Department. It's not up to the DOJ to decide what the purpose is. If oversight says we want it, then it's for oversight. But you think Trump's DOJ, assuming he gets reelected, should go a step further?
Well, look, I was in favor of the norm that you don't go after former presidents, especially on flimsy charges, as we've seen happen 3 or 4 times here now with these indictments. That norm is now blown out of the water. So what would stop a Trump Justice Department from saying, we're taking the Robert Hur report and we're just subtracting the conclusion that Biden's a nice old man with a failing memory, so therefore he wouldn't be found guilty in a jury, and we're just taking the evidence and going to charge him? Are they going to say, oh, that's too flimsy? Well, most of the Trump charges are too flimsy. They're going to say that's too political? Well, what are they doing to Trump? Are they going to say a prosecutor passed on that? Well, Alvin Bragg is going to be in court in a week or so on charges that other prosecutors took a pass on 2 or 3 different times. So they've blown up the standard that would have protected Joe Biden.
What the DOJ is doing here is interesting. Number one, it shows a lack of respect for the Congress. And that's been going on for a number of decades. It gets worse as each Congress is sworn in. But what I think is more fascinating here is the Department of Justice will have this fight. And they'll have it because what's on that tape is so damaging to Joe Biden. They can't let the American people hear how he's a bumbling, mumbling, uninformed president.
Yeah, and as you guys know, it's one thing to read something on a piece of paper. That's what I do for a living. It's another to hear it or to see it. Now, there's no video, but there is audio and would add context. You could play it, be played a lot of places. It would go viral, and the Justice Department wants to avoid that.
But to put all of this in perspective, because you just hit on what the Department of Justice is up to and not respecting Congress. It is the same thing that Biden is doing with student loans. It is the same thing that Chuck Schumer is doing with the impeachment, trying to table the impeachment of Alejandro Mayorkas. It is just not enforcing the law and uprooting any kind of standards and norms in this country.
Yeah, this is why, as you've said, they're running the Trump's going to end democracy campaign, but in the polling it's about equal, because a lot of people know how lawless the Biden administration has been, how they've leaned on social media companies to try to suppress free speech. So this is not an administration that has a high deal of respect for the law or for Congress.
It's only about politics. That's if you look at politics, everything they're doing makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
Rich Lowry, it's always wonderful to see you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for being with us.
I got to up my sock game if I'm going to have my feet exposed in the future. I got boring black socks.
I don't know that I matched appropriately.
Where's Waldo? Well, he's right here.
Come on now. Rich Lowry, always a pleasure. Good to see you. All right, up next.